Okay, guys. For the sake of this course, we are still talking about behavior modification. It's very important I treat some topics separately that will be very important for this course. Yes, I love to give a comprehensive understanding and comprehensive analysis and videos on almost in fact, every 99% of everything needed in any course we are considering. So the two other things I want to look at is the cognitive behavioral therapy. I've discussed it a little before and I promised to do it and I want to do it now. So we understand that cognition and behavioral therapy, cognition, behavioral, that is behavior modification, that is the course we are doing, right? From the perspective of behaviorism, you may wonder why we're not talking about cognitive school of thought or cognitive perspective when we are in behavioral perspective. You understand that they are having a link. That's what we're having today, CBT. You understand that in CBT there is no only just a thinking and so far you are thinking irrationally, you are having a disorder, and what do? We have to unthink your irrational thinking. No, right? There is sometimes a performance. That's why cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive theories will tell you that cognition predicts behavior. Why are we knowing that you have problem in cognition if not through your behavior? And how can we know you have achieved sanity, if I choose that word, if not still through your behavior? You engaging in the right behavior, encouraging you not only to think the right thing, say the right thing, feel the right way, but also act the right way. So that's why you see that CBT is also very important in this course, and you will see it as you go through the course during the classes, right? So as we already know what cognition is all about: irrational thinking pattern, negative thought pattern, cognitive biases, and everything. So I will want to take specifically two that you cannot escape: Aaron Beck, cognitive theory or cognitive therapy, or you call it cognitive behavioral therapy, and Albert Ellis, rational emotive behavioral therapy. So talking about Aaron Beck, these are two prominent names. Aaron Beck is regarded as the father of cognitive psychology, right? Now, in his work around 1960s, yeah, that was when he propounded this theory. Not the school of thought though, but this particular theory, especially his cognitive triad of depression that he gave. And please take note that cognitive triad is not only applying to depression, even as he used it to propound it, right? I will explain that with time as we go through this course now. Now, in this video, we'll try to touch only the Aaron Beck theory. Now, you see the assumptions of cognitive school is all about irrational thinking as they affect behavior. According to Aaron Beck, right, the individual has several irrational thinking patterns, as he called them self-catastrophizing, the all or none phenomenon. We talk about masturbations, yeah, all of these negative self-talk, catastrophizing, and everything. So when you say catastrophizing, they always, oh no, for example, right? Oh, I know I'll fail. I know it will not end well. I know there's no need being in this relationship. I know I'll still go there and fumble. I know I'll make mistake. This self-catastrophizing, very bad. Then you hear all or none phenomenon. Remember, irrational thinking patterns are the reason of psychological disorders according to cognitive theories, right? Now, you see that self-catastrophizing is very irrational and extreme. So extreme thought patterns are bad. All or none phenomenon, that's what we call it. All or none. I must have I will have all A's. All people, everyone loves me. Everybody must love me, or everybody hates me. I, I, I am better than everyone. If it's not all A, it's nothing. If it's not A, it's nothing. I've said it before in one of my videos. You understand that the effort I gave during my first year, I never gave room for B, right? I know I read for A's and I wrote A's for A's and I waited for A's, and my first result I saw was B. I said it before in one of my videos. You understand that that day I couldn't eat in the night. I was depressed. In fact, I'm using that word on the loose sense, right? I was very moody. I was really depressed that night. But the next day I picked up myself. So I'm not having depression, right? Yeah. So, but it opened my understanding to just get ready for for anything, right? So, but at that situation, that all or nothing, all A's or nothing, almost resulted to something negative or about my behavior, like giving me bad mood and everything, right? Now, what is the last one? Masturbation. I must be loud. I must get this. I must. Come on, you mustn't. For crying out loud, she's not the only girl, right? And for crying out loud, she's not the only guy, right? And for crying out loud, you can still make it in Nigeria. You mustn't, okay, you mustn't jackpot. I'm giving that for example, right? So when people hit it on these musts, Aaron Beck called it masturbations, you find out that when the otherwise is happening, psychological disorders is imminent, very imminent at that situation. So in cognitive therapies, there are steps in cognitive restructuring. Maybe I will take that later. Yeah, but I'm trying to look at, yeah, I can talk about it now because it's general about cognitive therapies. You will first have to identify the situation or the thought that is resulting to that problem. The event, is it about result? Is it about relationship? Is it about japa, right? I'm using that word japa because it's in dictionary currently, right? So, and all of those things. Now, the second step you have to know is the emotion. The emotion that situation, that thought evokes, right? The kind of emotion, it makes the person depressed, or it makes the person anxious, or like anxiety, or it makes the person living in alternate reality like schizophrenia, bipolar, all of those things, right? All of those things. Now, in the third one, you try to identify what the irrational thoughts behind it. Remember, the first one is simply identifying the situation or the thought pattern. You know, it's different from when I'm thinking, I must leave this country. Right? Like, not necessarily I must leave this country, like, I think America will be better for me. I think UK, I think I deserve to have all A's in these results and everything. And the third one, where we're talking about the irrational thinking pattern, you now be hearing America or nothing. All A's or nothing. These are the negative things. Or at that point you'll be like, oh, I can't make it. I am a failure. I'm this. You understand? That is the third one. Then the fourth part of it, you try to identify, or what is it called? Dispute it. You try to dispute the situation. Right? You dispute it. And in the fifth one, when you are saying dispute, you are trying to bring forth new alternative thought patterns. That is the word. Alternative thought patterns that are better. After identifying those alternative thought patterns, that is by challenging those negative ones, then you, in the fifth one, you evaluate the, that is when you are trying to create a balance. Create a balance between what the negative thoughts and the alternatives, because there's a need for that evaluation, because at that point you are questioning, do you think this is this? Okay, so what of this place? What if this did not do this? What if this and that and all of those things? You are trying to negotiate these things, and then you are balancing these things, and then you are bringing trying to bring the alternatives to reinforce it with the alternatives that are more balanced, right? So this is some of the ways we try to do cognitive restructuring. So I will want to discuss further, having said what Aarom Beck said about this cognitive theory and reason for psychological disorders. We would understand, he talked about all or none, like I said, the self-catastrophizing, masturbations, and all of these things. And another contribution and another thing he said in his cognitive behavioral therapy is his cognitive triad theory. Yes, his cognitive triad, where he said that individuals with psychological disorders such as depression, as he used it to elucidate the theory, they often have these cognitive triads, that are three irrational or negative thought patterns in these three areas. One is negative thoughts about oneself, 2, negative thoughts about the world, 3, negative thoughts about the future occurrences, or just the future, right? So in negative thoughts about oneself, that is where you say, I am hopeless, I am worthless. Remember, and I told you that this cognitive triad theory, you can still use it to explain other psychological disorders, right? Imagine, okay, in this negative self-talk, remember when we say negative, it mustn't be when you or let's say irrational self-talk. I am hopeless, I am worthless, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. That is in depression. What of in anxiety? I am nobody. They are better than me. If I go do this, I will fail, right? So about oneself, let's continue with that depression. I've talked about that. Then about the world, that is when they say there is nobody can help me. There is no solution to my problem. In fact, there is no need even trying to go to the hospital or go to see a therapist or anything. In fact, there is no need trying again. In fact, Nigeria has scam. In fact, the government has, in fact, no matter who you put in the seat, everything will still be. There is no need voting. This is very terrible. Yes, I'm sure it's very terrible. Okay, so the third one, negative talk, or thoughts, about the future. That is okay. I think I'm mixing it up there. That is where you see there's no need. If we still vote, it will still come out bad, right? If I still try again, I'll still fail. If I still say let me go for another guy or another girl for any relationship, I'll still fail. It will still turn out to be terrible, you know. So this is cognitive triad by Aarom Beck, and in their therapy and treatment, they engage in what we discussed, the cognitive restructuring steps. Their therapeutic technique is in what? Cognitive restructuring. I didn't add the 7th one, the last one. That is when the individual is encouraged to say them and act them. You know, when you have identified it, like we said, the first one, then you identify the situation and the thought that the person that is reason for the whole situation, right? Then you see the emotion it evokes, maybe depression, anxiety, all of those things. Then 3, you see the negative thought patterns that the person is having about it. 4th, you come up with what do you call? No, you start challenging. This 4th one is to challenge the negative self-talks, and the 5th is to provide or develop alternative thoughts, right? The 6th one is to that is when we try to evaluate the two, evaluate the alternatives and see how they are balancing in and everything. And the 7th one is encouraging the person to always, like I said, it's cognitive behavioral, right? The client is expected to go look at yourself in the mirror. You say, I am better than this, I can still do it, this is not the end of me, for example, right? Okay, so that is Aaron Beck's cognitive behavioral therapy, as provided by Aaron Beck and the cognitive triad, and it's very important moving forward. Please take note, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.